Good morning, fellow fraternity members. Indeed, very happy today to discuss the impact of COVID-19 on Indian economy. Post COVID-19, the world would definitely change. And the symptoms are straight in front of you. It has already started changing. And the webinar series for the faculty development program is one such example for you. COVID-19 had the impact almost all over the world. It has impacted majority of the nations. It has impacted the livelihoods of crores of people. It has affected all the sectors, all the individuals, though the magnitude differs. Anted rightly points out one important thing, that COVID-19 has affected the mankind physically, economically, and psychologically. All the individuals, though the magnitude differs, it has affected them physically, it has affected them economically, it has affected them psychologically. UNTED also predicts that coronavirus outbreak is likely to cost at least trillions of dollars of the world economy and good number of months for the recovery. But one important thing when it says that also, it clearly states that though the world economy moves towards the recession, but India and China may escape from the recession this time also. And few economists go to the extent of thinking that this COVID-19 may result in a doomsday scenario where the growth rate will be either negative or 0.5. Or few economists even speak of the extent that it's a worst economic downturn since the Great Depression of 1930. So one thing is very clear, coronavirus has affected all the economies very disastrously, and has affected all the individuals, all the sectors to a very greater extent. Because of which, economists have started predicting the doomsday scenario, or even some are estimating that it may be a situation wherein we will be at the time of the Great Depression of 1930s. Also, here, the latest World Economic Outlook growth projection uses an idea to what extent that this pandemic has its impact on the world economies. It is giving a negative growth for the world by -3. That is, -3 is the world outputs growth. So there is a negative of 3% growth this year in the world GDP. Whereas for the advanced economy, they say it is a negative 6.1%, -6.1%. Whereas for the emerging markets and the developing economies, it is -1. You just see United States, Germany, France, Italy, Spain, Japan, United Kingdom, Canada, all these countries have a negative growth. But only the emerging markets and the developing economies, especially in case of China, wherein they are predicting 1.2%, and that of India around 1.9% in 2020, is a positive growth. Though there is a positive sign, right now there is a positive sign in despite all this, but we should be cautious, right? We should be cautious, and we should strive hard to see that we attain the minimum of 1.9% growth. So I was just curious about saying how the various institutions have projected for the world GDP as well as that of the India's GDP. IMF, the International Monetary Fund, it has estimated that there will be a -3% growth of the world GDP this year. So it also says the cumulative loss over 2020 and 2021 from this pandemic crisis could be around $9 billion. And IMF also has estimated the India's GDP as 1.9%, maybe around 1.9%. And it has said that at least 170 countries will have lower GDP per capita because of the COVID-19 in 2020. World Bank has estimated that India's GDP will be in between 1.5 and 2.8%. And it has also said the remittances to low and middle income countries are projected to fall by 19.7% to 445 billion. So huge fall. And I was also curious to know about the other financial institutions apart from IMF and World Bank. So the Bank for International Settlements, has estimated that the world GDP for 2020 may be negative 12%. But they have said, if at all, if all the governments, right, if all the governments of the majority of the nations, if all the governments work together, then this will become lessened. Then it will accept with IMF projections of -3%. Otherwise, it will become -12% if the governments of all the nations, or at least the majority of the nations, do not work together to face this COVID-19. Then definitely it will be -12. If all of them work together, then the world GDP may be negative of 3%. The WTO also calculates and estimates the loss for 2020. It is saying, it may be in between 3.2% to 9.2% of loss. That is the negative 3.2 to negative 9.2%. How did they come to this conclusion? The studies of the WTO in the past, that is in the post-2006, has found that whenever there is a 10% fall in the global trade, it will lead to decrease of the world GDP by 3%. So whenever there is a fall of 10% in the global trade, it will lead to decrease of the world GDP by 3%. And the world trade in 2020 is expected to fall in between 13 and 32% in 2020 due to COVID-19. And hence, they are estimating that in 2020, the world GDP may be negative by 3.2% to 9.2%. So one thing is clear, that almost all the major financial institutions and World Trade Organization is very clear that this time there will be negative growth in the world GDP. But the positive thing, even in this negative things, are that India, both in terms of IMF estimates as well as World Bank estimates, that India's growth will be at least positive. That is at least one sense of hope, that the whole entire gambit of the financial institutions is seeing towards India, that India will have a positive growth. So this I just compiled it, seeing from the various respective institutions' websites and their news bulletins which they had released. And now let us try to understand this. Look, COVID-19, when the first confirmed case in the India was reported on 30th January, when the student, Kerala student who was studying in Wuhan came back to the state, they identified that it was reported as the first corona COVID-19 case in India. So what government did for this, first it had a 14-hour Janta curfew on 22nd March 2020, followed by 21 days lockdown from the midnight. And then it was continued for another 19 days, then another 14 days after that. So right now it is up to 18th, right, 17th May, we will be having the third phase of lockdown, which may continue in the fourth phase also. So India went in for lockdown on March 24th. when confirmed COVID cases were just 564, the intention was to break the chain of spread of COVID-19. India, as on today, is fairly successful in containing the spread. As each infected person on an average, right, as each infected person on an average could have infected 406 persons, the Health Ministry has estimated that by 15th April 2020, India would have had 8.2 lakh infected cases. But by 13th May 2020, the infected is touching around 71,000. Treated and discharged is around 23,000, and the death toll is around 2,293. Here, the crucial thing that which I'm trying to stress here is, though the lockdown is successful in minimizing the death toll, the infection in India, but still, COVID-19 is there. But how to mitigate this COVID-19 is another important aspect. But how to come out of this economic impact is the another crucial thing that which we have to worry about. First, let us try to understand how much of economic losses the India is facing due to this lockdown. Due to COVID-19, lockdown became it almost became important, and it was necessary, and the government did it. But out of this, because we were forced to go for the lockdown, because to control the COVID-19 did not have any other go. So Government of India went in for lockdown. But how much is the economic losses that which we are facing in this past 50 days? So Acute Ratings estimates that Indian economy would lose over 4.5 billion every day. They say around $4.5 billion every day we will be losing out because of the lockdown. And it would take at least 2 to 3 months to restore the industry supply chain completely in the domestic market, even after the lockdown is withdrawn. Berkeley Research estimates that the loss of output due to the shuttered factories and closed offices to be around 26 billion per week. And it also estimates that India's GDP growth in 2020 will be zero. So when going through all this, right, there is one figure we can come to the general consensus, that is on an average. There are other good number of research institutions which have calculated the economic losses for India due to the lockdown. But going through many of them, you can draw a conclusion, right? Generally, they come at one figure, at least close to one figure, that is 32,000 crores of loss every day. A day of lockdown in India, we are going to lose 32,000 crores. Economy is also important. Health is more important than that. Jaan hai to jahan hai, said the Prime Minister. So, but Prime Minister also said in his recent talk that we have to come out of this, right? We have to balance both the health and the economy, right? We have to balance the health as well as the economy, and see that, right, the economy's health as well as the health of the citizens of India will be taken care. So how exactly can we do that? That I will come to you in few more minutes. But first, let us try to understand on which all sectors, right, it had its impact on the Indian economy. In the beginning itself, I did mention that the coronavirus or COVID-19 had its impact on almost all the sectors, on almost all the individuals in the country and the world. But here, the most affected sectors, right? The most affected sectors are tourism and aviation, MSME, industries, village and cottage industries, construction, entertainment, retail, transport, textiles, IT, electronics, solar power, chemicals, and almost all sorts of services from simple to sophisticated technology services. But thanks to our doctors, thanks to our doctors, nurses, and the health industry, they kept on working, right? They kept on working. Their services were intact. The Paura Karmika services were intact, because of which at least we were able to contain it, if not completely eliminate the COVID-19 out of this country. And when we, let us also see, which all individuals were affected. I was just trying to list out which all individuals it affected more. It affected more for the unorganized workers, downtrodden people, poor people. So I was just listing out, who all constitutes this unorganized workers. So migrant workers, agriculture laborers, contract and casual laborers, small and marginal farmers, sharecroppers, fishermen, animal husbandry workers, BD rolling workers, labeling and packing workers, building and construction workers, leather workers, weavers, artisans, salt workers, workers in the brick kilns and stone quarriers, workers in the sawmills, oil mills, toddy tappers, carriers of the headloads, amalis, drivers of animal-driven vehicles, loaders and unloaders, barbers, vegetable and fruit vendors, newspaper vendors, cobblers, hamals, handicraft artisans, handloom weavers, tailors, rickshaw pullers, auto drivers, sericulture workers, carpenters, tannery workers, power loom workers, hackers, the list is endless. It has affected the unorganized workers to a very greater extent, and unorganized workers constitute the majority in this country. So how it affected, right? That is also very important. How did it affect economically, right? How did it affect economically is also a very important thing that which we have to concentrate on. So I will take only few sectors here and try to analyze, right? I will take a few sectors here and try to analyze how, this shutdown in the various countries as well as in India, the impact on the Indian economy is not just because of the lockdown within the country. The impact is also because there was a lockdown in the other countries also. That we have to understand here. One impact is the impact on the Indian economy because the production activities in the country was stalled because of the lockdown. The other impact which we have to understand here is, which is there on the Indian economy, is because of the lockdown in the other countries also, how it impacted the Indian economy. So both are important, right? Both are important because, once there is a lockdown in the neighboring countries and then we depend on the spares on those countries, still the supply chain, right? There's still the supply chain resolves there. It doesn't come over here. Because of the lockdown here, it had affected them also, right? The countries which are dependent on for the spare parts or for the materials from the India are also affected. So let us try, for an example, we will just try to see few sectors, if not all the areas listed out here, as an examples how these areas were affected, how these areas were affected. So, for example, automobiles, right? Automobiles. So automobiles are affected. How the automobiles were affected? One thing is we closed down here and assume that we will immediately government in the green zones, right? Government in the green zone have allowed now to open the automobile industry, all sorts of industry over there. But here immediately it cannot. That is the issue, right? So the losses keep continuing. Now, what I'm trying to say here is shutdown in the various countries, especially in those countries where we depend for the components. Say China was shut down then. So now also they are trying to revive their economy. And so are the many other countries like Korea, right? Many other countries from where we get the spare parts, Taiwan, right? Many other countries. So what exactly happens is, because there was a shutdown there and shutdown here, one thing is still the supply chain of this country and the supply chain over there resorts back, it will be difficult to revive. So it is estimated that in the auto sector alone, there will be 8 to 10% contraction in the Indian auto manufacturing in 2020. So the entire year this will stretch, that the entire year this will stretch until unless this supply chain resorts back and we get back, India manufacturing, Indian auto manufacturers get back their components from those countries, right? It will not be the full-fledged. So these are the issues that, that worries the Indian economy, that will have its impact on the Indian economy. And, take the pharmaceuticals, right? The case of the pharmaceuticals. And, pharmaceuticals, we are one of the topmost drug exporters in the world. But still, India also imports, right? India also imports the domestic, India also imports the drugs, the bulk drugs for its pharmaceutical industry. So, there is a calculation that India imports around 24,900 crore worth of bulk drugs in the financial year 19. Say, assume it is same in the financial year 20 also. So around 24,900 crore worth of, usually it will be higher. Assuming that it is at the same, even then around 25,000 crore worth of the bulk drugs, right, we depend on the imports. So when it doesn't come on time, right, when it doesn't come on time, then the pharmaceutical industry will also lose, and we the Indians will also suffer, right, because those individuals, right, who are dependent on those drugs for their ailments will be suffering. So there is an economic loss, there is a physical loss, physically, economically, psychologically. That is what UNTAD told is correct in terms of the impact of the COVID-19 on all the economies, including the India. And even the chemical industry, right, even the chemical industry, right, wherein we just get the dyestuffs from the various countries, right, including chemicals, intermediaries. India is dependent on various countries. Again, there is a problem because of the components will not coming. That's what I'm trying to say. The impact is not just for now, right? Impact, we 32,000 crores every day we lost whenever we, in all these 50 days when we had a lockdown. Fine. But even after that, right, even after that, till, once those economies revive, right, this losses continues, right, this losses continue, do not, it may reduce, right, it may reduce, the losses may reduce, but it still continue. That is what I'm trying to highlight over here. And, the electronics, similar is the case of the electronics, solar power, IT, all these industries, right, are suffering because of this COVID-19. So in the case of electronics, we depend on the spares, the raw materials heavily from China. So till, the production, the supply chain, is intact and it keeps coming, then again, there are the issues with the electronics industry and the IT, wherein majority of in the services is contributed by the IT and BT in this country. But, here right now, a lot of layoffs you have been seeing. Many IT industries are slowing down, and layoff has become quite a common thing right now, despite the government assurances and directives not to remove anybody from the job. But these companies are going because many startups are also closing down or slowing down. It is because what happens. Assume that one is working in some X company in India, but he is getting the orders, right? His IT firm is getting the orders or the projects from the France or England. When those economies are slowing down, definitely, they will also either may cancel this project or may go slow on this project, but new projects will not come. So when they may continue, right? The existing workers may be continued or maybe late or maybe asked to go slow till, when we are asking them to work from home and other such initiatives by the government. So either they will be working from the home till this project is completed, till the new project comes from the other countries, right? The unemployment looms large on them also because, many firms, right? Many firms cannot, many firms are not willing to hold them for long, if at all, if this COVID-19 impact continues to be on the Indian economy and the world economy. And more so, many startup companies, which have started from which have taken the loans and have started, right, either from the Mudra or from other financial institutions, they're also finding it a very tough time now because the new orders are not coming, and right now there is a lockdown, and it has become very tough for them to sustain the losses that which they are incurring. So all this, and of course, till I kept on repeatedly saying this, till the shipment delays will be, till the first thing is the cargo movement should start all over the world. The supply chain should start. Then shipment delays should stop. All that, it depends on so many issues. It depends on so many issues. Only then, right? Only then these issues, right? Only then these issues can be solved. And even when there's a lockdown, it doesn't affect only. I was telling the lockdown in the other countries also has affected the Indian economy. The lockdown in the Indian economy has also affected the world too. Take the garment industry or the textile industry. Even the countries like China also, they have halted the operations because we are under the lockdown. So it was almost a dependent economy. World really in that sense has become a global village. But unfortunately, the COVID-19, right? The COVID-19 had a very disastrous effect on all over the world, on the world economy, and on the Indian economy also. And that is the reason that I kept on saying, right? It has affected almost all the sectors, right? It has affected almost all the sectors, all the individuals, right? I have not listed out the pharmaceutical, textiles, right, in this list here on this screen. But all these industries, right? All these industries, almost all industries have been affected. Though we say pharmaceuticals, right? The pharmaceutical sector is doing human service right now, but even that is also affected, right? That is also affected because we depended even on though we export, we depend for few medicines, bulk drug supply from the various countries. So these are all the reasons that why I kept on saying that Indian economy is affected by the COVID-19, and of course the world economy also is severely affected by the COVID-19. Now we will try to understand the sector-wise, right? Now we will try to understand the sector-wise how exactly the whole world economy, right? How the world economy had its impact on the Indian economy, and the Indian economy shutdown had its impact on the world economy. We understood that. Now we will try to understand how this COVID-19 impacted three major sectors in this country, first being the agriculture. We say agriculture is the backbone of the Indian economy. Though our service-led economy, still majority of the Indians depend on agriculture for their livelihood. To be precise, 48.9% of the Indians depend for their livelihood agriculture sector. So 14.43 crore farm households are there in the India, and majority of these households were affected. Probably all of you have witnessed how the grown crop was there, right? It was a season which was a harvesting season. Rabi harvesting season was there. They had the vegetables, right? They had the fruit season also was there. Summer fruit season was there. The vegetables came, but due to the lack of transportation as well as the closure of the markets, farmers suffered. And it was quite a common sight, right? It was quite a common sight that which we saw on the media, that wherein the farmers were crying in front of their rotten crops, which were just there lying down and getting rotten because they were unable to transport it to the markets. So that was the first major big hit, right? That was the first major big hit for the farmers there. And the crucial thing that which we have to understand here, right, which we have to understand here is, one of my friend was just speaking to me over phone. He was telling me, usually in this season, right, in the summer, he told me that he'll be growing tomatoes so that he will be getting the good price after 2 months. So, but unfortunately, this time, because there was a lockdown, the area in which he stays is in the red zone. And generally, what he do is he will be calling 3 or 4 nurseries and going there, seeing the quality of the tomato plant. Then he used to take seedlings and then take them. But this time he couldn't do that, right? Taking all this, if he grows, again he will, if he doesn't get, right, with all this pain, putting all his energy, putting his sweat, right? The farmer puts all his energy, sweat, time, money, everything into it, and he grows for us, right? He grows for us. But when he doesn't get, right, when he doesn't get the price, and moreover this time, he's unable to transport it, right? He's unable to transport it to the market itself, right? Seeing the whole grown crop in front of his eyes, unable to transport them, imagine the fate, right? Imagine the psychological condition of the farmer at that point of time. Of course, government did take many initiatives, and many also came with the novel idea, right? Many came with the novel idea of using the WhatsApp, right, social media for this, and trying to say they are coming on to this area with the grapes. They won't directly want to sell it, right? They directly want to sell it. And at this juncture, the Farmer Producers Association could also have pitched in, but unfortunately, they were not that organized. But anyhow, all these initiatives, right? All these initiatives tomorrow may, say for example, the Farmer Producers Associations, the self-help groups, and even they should undertake, they should undertake the marketing themselves, right, and see that they have the supply chain intact, even at the time of the emergencies, right? This is the time wherein they can pitch in, right? Wherein they can pitch in, and necessity is the mother of invention. This time, COVID-19, there was a problem of the transportation, markets were closed, and government did allow them to carry, the transport all their produce, agriculture produce, well, from the farm to the cities or to the taluka places. But there were a lot of supply chain problems there, and they couldn't shift it. But in case if the farmers themselves have this, right, with the help of the government, now if they are able to build it, definitely it will take a long way in understanding this. And now the next, the most important thing is the Kharif season is coming, right? The Kharif season is about to start, and this time, right, Kharif season is about in 3 weeks, within 3 weeks, the Kharif season will come. The monsoon, right? Most importantly, this time, meteorological department have forecasted, right? Have forecasted that this time there will be normal monsoons. When there is a normal monsoons, right? When there is a normal monsoons, we should be happy at least in that juncture, because the Indian farmer even now depends, right? Even now depends. Majority of the Indian farmers depends on the monsoons for the cultivation. So in such a case, it is the time, right? It was the time wherein the farmers prepared for all this. Even the government agencies prepared for the seeds. India required around 250 lakh quintals of seeds for the Kharif season. India required around 250 lakh quintals of seeds for the Kharif season. So when they require it, the preparation should be starting from the March to May, because in the June first week or second week we will be having the monsoons. So the preparations for having 250 lakh quintals of seeds for the Kharif season should have been started from the March. But this COVID-19 lockdown did hamper that preparation. But however, government has taken the steps to mitigate those problems, and have been at it. In the war footing, they are at it. But still, what I'm trying to say here is, this time, the Kharif season, though the monsoons will be right around the right time, and it will be normal, right? Look at the time, look at the difficulties that which the farmers may face, right? May face. Of course, one thing is there, the government is assuring that it will take care of, it will take care that the farmer will get the seeds, right? Will get the chemical fertilizers all in time, right? The credit, everything on in time. But look how much preparations would how much preparations are required for the Kharif season, right? Right from the 250 lakh quintals of seeds, how many quintals of fertilizers to be kept ready at that point of time. All these are the issues, right, which did get affected by the COVID-19, because all these things had to be tested. Most important thing is the seeds. When I was speaking of the seeds, it all begins from the farmer fields, where pollinations are monitored by the teams, and then after the harvesting, dyeing, drying of it, and the selection of the good seeds from it, and then sent to the processing plants, wherein they will be tested to the labs, and then they will be tested there, and finally it will be packed, then it will come to the farmers. So all this, all this process, right, all this process, of course, to some extent it got jejuled. But the government has intervened, and now it is trying to set right all this, and hopefully the farmers will get all the seeds and the required inputs, right, at the right time. Another important thing is the labor availability, especially for the commercial crops. The labor availability is also a very important one. At least for the food crops, also it is important, but the food crops doesn't require as much as that is required for the commercial crops. And majority of these plantation crops and the commercial crops depended on the labor, migrated labor who came from the northern India, and of course even from Tamil Nadu, who worked in the fields, right? And even it has hampered even in Punjab, in the states like Punjab, wherein many farmers are already expressing the most important problem that they will be facing for the coming Kharif season will be the labor availability. So hope, right? Hope by that time, right, the things will settle and the migrated workers will come back. But it is just a hope, but it is not that easy. We know, and I'll be discussing that exclusively. The reasons that why migrated laborers may not come back also, right? So those issues are also plays a very important role even for the agriculture sector also. And now we will try to understand, right? Now we will try to understand the role of the MSMEs, right? The role of the MSMEs, how they play a very important role in the Indian economy, right? How they will play a very important role in the Indian economy. MSMEs, first let us try to understand why, any effect on the MSME will also hit the Indian economy very hard. If it hits the agriculture, then we understood, almost the one who is dependent, one out of the two who is dependent on the agriculture, and we who are dependent on agriculture for our food are also affected. Here, when it comes to the MSME, right, when it comes to the MSME in India, as per the last survey, we have around 633.88 lakh enterprises in India, out of which 51% are in rural and 49% are in urban. This is most important thing when it affects, right? When it affects the rural India more, right? It affects the rural India more. Of course, even urban India will also be affected. And moreover, majority, or I can say 99.46% of the MSME of the 633.88 lakh enterprises are micro enterprises. Only 0.52%, that less than half, right? Less than half, 0.52% are small enterprises, 0.02% are medium enterprises. And I was just trying to see why this MSME becomes much more important, only from the employment and from the economic powerhouse, even from the inclusiveness, also it becomes important. Right now at the gender-wise categorization, 79.63% are male owners, 20.37% are female owners. And when it comes to the, you may say, still the adequate gender sensitization can be done. Of course, government is also taking a lot of initiatives for it. But now our intention is to understand its impact. But why I'm giving you the background statistics of the MSME, because of its importance, to know the importance of the MSME. And even the inclusiveness, right? Inclusiveness also, it is doing a good job by getting to 12.45% or SC owners, right? They belong to the scheduled castes, and 4.2% of the MSME owners are scheduled tribe, and then 49.72% belong to the OBC, and 39.95% belong to the others, and 0.79% have not revealed, to which religion or caste they belongs to. Here, what I'm trying to specifically say is around 11 crore people, right? 11 crore people are employed in the MSME, 11 crore, right? 1,109.89 lakh to be very precise, are employed in the MSME. So when I say that, these number of households are dependent on the MSME for their livelihood, I'll not be exaggerating. And why I'm saying this is an economic powerhouse. We should cater, when the MSME is hit hard, agriculture is hit hard, almost 50% of the India is definitely going to be hit. Why I'm saying it? Because, it is contributing 6.11%, 6.11% of the manufacturing GDP. It contributes 6.11% of the manufacturing GDP, 24.63% of the service GDP, and 33.4% of the manufacturing output comes from the MSME, and the MSMEs contribute 45% to the exports. So MSMEs becomes crucial from the point of employment, and from the point of the exports, and from the point of its contribution to the GDP, to the contribution to the GDP. So it becomes a very, very important from that point of that point. And now, right now, because of the lockdown, MSMEs are closed. They are in a earlier to the lockdown, the economy was slowing down, right? The economy was slowing down. The first major jolt was for the MSMEs. Many MSMEs, right? Even in Bangalore, if you want to see the Pina industries, many industries were on the verge of closing. Even when the time of the slowing down of the economy, they were facing a lot of problems at that point of time. Severe crisis was there with the MSME, and government tried to revive it through the 59 minutes loan, through the Mudra, right? It also did undertake many initiatives, but still, there was no that big push for the MSMEs. By that time, the COVID-19 came, and the MSMEs right now are facing a severe problem. And what exactly, I was just inquiring with one of my friend who also runs an micro unit of the solar plant, wherein he manufactures the solar water heaters. I went to him, and and we were discussing on these issues, how it has affected the MSME. He was just explaining to me that with these 3 months, right, in these 3 months, especially starting from March, April, and this May, they are forced to pay, right? They will be paying, of course. Otherwise, the laborers will go off and they will never return back to them. So at least for that, he has to pay them. He has to pay them their salaries. But the business in these 2 months, at least, right, by the middle of the March itself, right, by 21st itself, we stop the business, and from that day onwards, right, we have a business is zero. But still, I have to pay the rent, right? I have to pay the rent. I have to pay the electricity charges. Of course, the government recently, Karnataka government waived the 2 months. But that's what he was telling me. It was much before that announcement came. He was just telling me that he has to pay the electricity bill, water bill. He has to pay the rent for the owner. Of course, it's though the government may say, he was just explaining to me, the government may say you don't have to pay the rent for 2 months or 3 months, but he cannot afford to do it because because you want to maintain a very good relationship with the owner, and if he has to continue in the business, he has to pay him the rent. He has 3 shirts, one for 20,000 rupees, another 2 shirts of 10,000 each. So for them, he has to pay 40,000. The another, he was quoting me the figure of around 25 lakh rupees, right? 25 to 30 lakh rupees total expenditure, including the labor, electricity bill, everything that which he was counting. So he was just, when he was telling me this, I was wondering, even I was shocked, how will you survive now? Then he also gave me the another angle to it. The one thing is, right now we has closed it, right? Right out the business is zero. And now once, the government lifts the lockdown and once he initiates it, right? Once he rebegins, right? Once he starts his factory again, then again he told me for the business to emerge back, right? For the business to emerge back, it may take at least 3 to 6 months. Say, for example, prior to COVID-19, if his business turnover is 1 crore plus, but after this, right? After the COVID-19, right? After the COVID-19, in the month of, say, in the June, he starts his company. He was just explaining to me that in the June it will be at the most some 5 to 10 lakhs in the beginning. Then again, to reach to the level of 1 crore plus turnover, it may require 3 to 6 months or even more than that. So that is what he was trying to explain. Till then, right? Till then, he had to survive, right? He has to survive. Only then he can regain, right? Only then he can see the pre-COVID-19 days and see that his industry will flourish, right? His small industry will flourish and he can continue giving the employment. And he was also saying, even I'm also contributing to the nation by paying the tax. Look, fair enough, right? And of course, yesterday the government of India has also announced lots of initiatives for the MSMEs. That's one good thing. That's one good thing which the government of India also has undertaken. That it is giving stressed loans. It is giving and non-collateral, right? Without collateral, the loan for 4 years, for 1 year, they do not have to pay. Good amount of initiatives have been done for MSMEs. Today also, the government has announced, right? Today also the government has announced money for the migration, for the migrated workers. So all this, so good number of initiatives are done. But still, more important is, the revival of the MSMEs are the key, right? The revival of the agriculture sector, the revival of the MSMEs play a very crucial role because they are contributing significantly to the employment. Once, if at all, if you cater to the employment, then automatically the purchasing power, right? They will get the employment, their income will increase, their purchasing power will increase, the demand will revive. So that the COVID-19 has impacted both supply and demand, both, right? On both the angles, you have to work now. So one hand, you have to revive the demand. On the other hand, you have to revive the supply chain. So both are very crucial in the COVID-19. So as the first step, government has rightly taken this decision of reviving the MSMEs through its very good initiatives of providing it a good amount of money exclusively for the MSMEs yesterday, which is really a good thing. And another important thing that which we have to understand here is, it also, right, it also requires few more steps, right, wherein one more thing that which I just wish to share with all of you at this point of time is, so few MSMEs, right? Even the one of my friend which I was speaking of, who is running the solar factory, he was telling me we depend on China, right? We depend on China for the raw materials. But if at all, if we get the initiatives, right? Because yesterday, there is also day before yesterday when Modi ji spoke to the nation, he also mentioned one important thing: let us go local. So much before that, my friend also was telling me, if at all, if the government supports us, right? In India, we are not, from his perspective, he was telling me, we are not producing the solar cells, right? Solar cells. If at all, if the 24 hours power is given to our industries and given a little support, right? Little support, financial support, definitely we can produce all those goods in our country. And even within 3-4 years, we can compete with the China too. To that extent, the entrepreneurs in India are really, with full josh, they are there and they really want to do something great for themselves and for this country. And in case, right, using this go local, right, go local Swadeshi, If at all, if we can promote, right, if we can promote these MSMEs to produce all those which earlier we were importing, right, which we are importing even now, if we can produce them, initially it may be costly, right, initially it may be a little costly, it may be of the inferior quality. That is what even Modi ji was telling. And Gandhi ji also told about this, right, much 100 years back itself. Gandhi ji was very clear when he was saying about this Swadeshi. He was pinpointing, right? He was pinpointing about Swadeshi. Even if the goods are inferior, right? Even if the goods are inferior, even if the goods are a little highly priced, then go for the goods which are produced in your neighborhoods. It is as if you are helping yourself, because a local guy will also be getting the employment. So probably now there is an opportunity, even in the MSME now we have an opportunity, because Prime Minister also has initiated, right, of going the local. And this juncture, right, at this juncture, if the MSMEs, which are dependent for the raw materials on many countries, right, including China, if at all, if we can produce, right, if we can give them the appropriate technology, right, if we can help them financially, which right now the government already has announced, if we take little more steps in this direction, probably the MSMEs will take this, right, will take this opportunity and grow, right, and also help the Indian economy to a very greater extent. And how it had its impact on the poverty. This is another crucial thing. you know COVID-19 will not only affect economically, right, when it also affects psychologically. Both will result in increasing of the poverty. Why I'm saying this, even the World Bank also is saying that about 40 to 60 million people will be pushed into the extreme poverty, and with their best estimate of being 49, right, with our best estimate being 49 million, that's what the World Bank also is stating. So here, what I'm trying to, concisely say is, it doesn't just push the people towards the poor, right? It also increases the inequality. It also increases the inequality. It will also have its impact on the productivity of the people, right? Productivity. It will have a wide varied impact, and one such impact is on the increase in the poverty level. There will be more number of people will be forcibly pushed below the poverty line, right? In the second week of April 2020, United Nations International Labour Organization claimed that about 400 million workers from India's informal sector, 400 million workers from India's informal sector are likely to be pushed deeper into poverty due to COVID-19. Around 40 crore workers, right, informal workers in India, as per the ILO, will be pushed into the poverty. Imagine, that there, as per the world population, this is an estimate again by the World Bank, which also calculates the general poverty line. It also calculates the general poverty line. So it is projecting that there may be increase from 8.2%, right? The general poverty line right now in the world is around 8.2%. They calculate it based on the minimum of $1.90 per day, $1.90, right? $1.90 per day. So whoever consumes less than $1.90 per day are referred as people living below poverty line. This $1.90 per day is calculated in the PPP terms when you want to calculate it for India. When you want to calculate for other countries in the PPP terms, it can be calculated taking this, and the figures of this purchasing power parity in terms of dollars are also being given by the World Bank itself. So every year they keep on updating it. So based on that, right, based on that calculation, they also say, around 665 million people, right, around 665 million people will be poor, right? It was 632 million people last year. Now there will be 665 million people below poverty line this year. And of course, the most tragedy, the most form of violence, the people who doesn't have a voice will be pushed, right, will be in the poverty. And poverty anywhere, right? Poverty anywhere is a threat, right? Poverty anywhere is a threat to prosperity. That we should not forget. And moreover, the entire world, in the entire world, the number of people who are living below poverty line, the quantum of it have increased. And in India, there is a study which says even a 25% fall in the income, even if there is a 25% fall in the income due to the lockdown, it will take 354 million people will be poor. So it will cost the government also more. When more people are below the poverty line, government has to spend more for the poverty eradication scheme, on providing them racial provisions at the cheaper price, right? Through the fair price shops. So all these are the major issues that which we have to look into. And the latest available data was of the 2011 and 12, wherein India had 270 million people below the poverty line, which was 21.9%. Even taking from the calculation that just a fall of 25%, but it has, the fall in the income is up to 60%, 70%. In some cases, it's 100%. The fall in the income in some cases 100% because there is a temporary unemployment at this juncture and they're not earning anything. So now, even taking roughly a 25% of the fall in the income, it will take the people below poverty line from 270 million to 354 million population. That is another cause of worry for the India. And but India right now has a sufficient food grains to feed the poor people, right? Feed the migrant workers who are in the distress, right? The poor people who are suffering a lot. But again, the distribution is a key. The distribution is a key. How we will be able to, right? Government is taking lot of steps, right? Lot of steps. They're giving 2 months provisions in advance, right? 2 months provision ration in advance. Now another 2 months also they're planning to give in advance. But despite all this, right? Despite all this, in the implementation, there will be always a loopholes, right? When I was speaking to my friend hailing from Davangere, he was just mentioning me about this, wherein every quantity, right? One unit they are giving around 8 kgs, right? 8 kgs per unit of uh, 8 kgs per unit. So each household, right? The household assume is entitled for 16 kgs of food grains. Even there, right? If the 2 months in advance is given, right? 2 months in advance is given, it will be 32. But there also, right? There also, whether they may give 32 or they may say you take 20. So these are the issues, right? 8, 16, 16, 16, 32, right? So much of issues, right? And it is all the stakeholders who should join their hands with the government at this point of time. Otherwise, it will become very, very difficult, right? The poor will become much more poorer. So that is the important issue. Now the government is planning to distribute it, and it is the responsibility of all the stakeholders who are there in that part to see that it reaches them, right? It reaches the intended beneficiary. That is most important. Otherwise, it will become from bad to worse, because there are no starvation deaths. If at all, if it continues, right? If it doesn't improve a supply delivery things, and the implementation is the issue, right? And everywhere, government cannot see through the CCTV each and every individual and monitor every work of this provision, fair price shops. That the only most important thing is each one of us, right? Each one of us have a responsibility. A fair price shop owner also has a responsibility. The one who is watching this also is having a responsibility. Whenever they see, the intended beneficiary is not getting its due, they want to raise the alarm and see that, the intended beneficiary will get it. And moreover, when I was thinking of this impact of poverty or COVID-19 on poverty. The another important things that which came to my mind was, you know, even a report of the World Bank also says this, it will be, COVID-19 will be 10 times more deadlier. It will be 10 times more deadlier for the poor. We should not forget this. It will be 10 times more deadlier for the poor. Hence, I was telling, whatever is the benefits, right? Whatever is the benefits that which the government is trying to give it to the poor, all of us, right? All the stakeholders and those what monitors it, right, who sees it, also should see that, they should correct that immediately. And another fact that which I just want to bring to your notice is, in India, if we take the statistics of 2019, 9.6% children, right, 9.6% children in between 6 and 23 months, are fed minimum acceptable diet, such a pitiable thing. So what will happen if the delivery system, right now we have a sufficient food grain stock, right? We have 88 million tons of food grain stock by March 31st. We had that. And of course, even after the distribution, we will be left out with sufficient food grains. So government is also trying to distribute it, but the issue here is the distribution, right? The same thing what Amartya Sen also mentions when he was studying the Bengal famine of 1940s. He just mentions, right, at that point of time also, India did have a sufficient food grains, but the British government failed to distribute it properly, and because of which there was a mass starvation deaths in Bengal. So this should not happen again, right? This should not happen due to COVID-19, because we have enough food stocks and the government also has sanctioned it to the poor people, but it should reach the beneficiary. And one more thing is 37.9% of the children in this country are grown with the child, they have a stunting growth rate, right? They will have a stunting growth rate. So these are the reasons that 69% of the deaths of the children, 69% of the deaths of the children below the age of 5 in India is caused by malnutrition. So this is, even without COVID-19, 69% of the death of the children below the age of 5 in India is caused by malnutrition, says UNICEF. So such being the case, right, at this juncture, just imagine the role of the people who are responsible to distribute the food grains, right, who are responsible to distribute the food grains to the poor. So it is the right of the poor at this point of time, and the government has given it to them, and they should get it. Otherwise, things will, right? Things will go from bad to worse. And another crucial thing, right? Another crucial thing that which I just want to draw your attention to is the migrant workers, right? The migrant workers. The Economic Survey of 2016-17 estimates the magnitude of the interstate migration in India was close to 9 million annually between 2011 and 16. We also have a data of 2018-19 also of that. So according to the census 2011, the total number of internal migrants in the country accounting for inter and interstate movement was staggering 139 million. So Uttar Pradesh and Bihar are the biggest source states, right? They are the biggest source states, followed by closely by Madhya Pradesh, Punjab, Rajasthan, Jharkhand, Uttarakhand, Jammu and Kashmir, and West Bengal. The major destination states for these migrant workers are Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Delhi, Gujarat, Andhra Pradesh, and Kerala. Now the issue is, COVID-19 has impacted them not just physically, also economically, and more so psychologically. Many of them who were interviewed, right? Many of them who were interviewed said, even if we die, we will go to our homes and die over there. Even if we die the starvation deaths without the work there, no problem, we will go back. Because such an impact, psychological impact they had due to this lockdown. Because it was, many of them, despite the efforts of the government and many institutions, many of them couldn't get, they were the mercy of the food givers. Many thought we are at the mercy of the food givers. All these years, right, they were earning, right, they were earning the food what they wanted, right? Even they send the money back to their natives, and they were leading a though very hard life, but they were happy with their lives because they had traveled hard. They had traveled from hundreds of kilometers, sometimes thousands of kilometers from one state to the another state for their livelihood. But they worked hard, they earned their livelihood, saved money, also sent back to their natives. But here now, it was such a crucial thing for them, and they suffered without work. They were at the Many felt, we are at the mercy of the one who gives us the food. Sometimes, some of them were not able to get it, right? They were not able to get it also. Ah, and more so, what happens, because there was an uncertainty when the lockdown will be lifted, made compelled them to feel that, okay, let us go back, right? Let us go back to our places. And moreover, living without work for them also became very difficult, and they were staying in a very shabby places, and many of them did not have the right accommodation, because majority of them spent their good amount of time at the workplace, so they did not bother that much for uh, their accommodation. But now, when they were forced to stay indoors, right, it became very difficult for them to stay the indoors, because it was a very shabby, it was a very small place. So much of difficulties were there for them. So, but one positive thing that which emerged from today's government of India's decision is, those workers who are going back, right, who are already have gone back, they are given they can register themselves under the MG Narega and write immediately, and they can start doing the work under the MG Narega. They have increased the job opportunities under the MG Narega, number one. Number two, for them, one nation, one ration card is also being announced within 1 year, right? Within March 31st, that will also be implemented. And even for the non-ration card holders, immediately, right now, those who do not have any ration card, they are also provided the ration, right? They're also provided ration without asking for the ration card. That provision also has been made. They're given 5 kgs of rice and 1 kg of chana, that is dal. So that also has been done. And other than that, in order to make the migrant workers feel safer, even into the places where they get migrated for their work, there also the government has come out with a new plan, wherein they will be given they will be given the accommodation, right, with the government, with the help in the PPP mode, right, in the government, in the public-private partnership mode, will also have the affordable houses constructed for these migrant workers, where they will be given at the affordable rents for these migrant workers. All steps to see that, to mitigate the psychological impact that has happened due to the COVID-19, because they suffered a lot. Many of them traveled hundreds of kilometers. They walked hundreds of kilometers, and many of them, some of them also were killed in the accidents while traveling, while walking, and some of them while walking on the rail tracks. All this, had happened, and the government, of course, government of India has come up with the right measures today to mitigate their sorrow, to mitigate their miseries. But one thing is always there, right? The way, the entire society should be blamed for the situation of the migrant workers of today. But good that at least, the government woke up today on for the migrant workers, and it is doing a lot of good things, like providing that the migrant workers from the next year onwards, after the March 31st, when he is traveling from his home state of Bihar to some Bangalore also, right? With his ration card, he can just take the rations even in the Bangalore also. So that provision is now made available, right? That provision is made available at least from the next year, right? So all these are the measures, right? Probably which will take a long way, which will help the migrant workers to in a big way. But right now, it's they're a very miserable condition. So they are contributing, right? They are contributing more for the Indian economy. They are working hard, right? They are working hard, though they're taking less wages. They are working hard. They are contributing for the productivity. They are contributing for the India's GDP. Hence, they deserve, right? They deserve to be treated well. And today's three important announcement of the government of India also endorses that they deserve it. They deserve to be treated well, and those decisions are in the right direction. And let us also now try to understand, the employment scenario of how this works out to be. And here, the 500 million labor workforce is there in India. Here right now, India is enjoying demographic dividend. We have started enjoying the demographic dividend from 2018 onwards, 2018 onwards, which will last till 2055, So India will have the demographic dividend for around 38 years. So wherein the majority will be, right, the majority of the population will be in the workforce, right, will be in the workforce. That is demographic dividend. So this is an advantage which India should utilize it. So this scenario right now, we have 500 million labor force, right, out of 131 crore, right, 50 billion, right, 50 crores are in the labor force. So what it means to say, another 50 at least are left out, right? Maybe right now India is enjoying demographic dividend. Let's not forget this. And 465 million of them work in the informal sectors. We already have discussed, the workers who are in the informal sector. I give you the big list of the workers, even many more apart from that. The list that which I gave. There are many more workers into it, and 5 to 10 million workers are added every year. 5 to 10 million workers are added every year. And the Economic Survey of 2018 and 19, released in July 4, 2019, also states that 93% of the total workforce is informal, right? So more jobs are created in the informal sector, and 465 million informal sector workers are there today. And according to the Periodic Labor Force Survey 2017-18, 6.1% of the India's labor force and 17.8% of the young people in the age group between 15 and 29 years are unemployed. So this is the scenario which I'm saying is pre-COVID-19 situation, because the NSS Wood data comes once in 5 years. The latest is of 2018-19. But here what I'm trying to say is, in the COVID-19 scenario, right? In the COVID-19 scenario, majority of the individuals are temporarily unemployed. It is all over the world. Scenario is all over the world. The International Labour Organization said this week that more than 1 billion workers are at the high risk of pay cut or losing their job. They're speaking of the 1 billion workers losing out their jobs. CMI data, right? CMI data for India, right? CMI data. But again, all this unemployment losses may be temporary, right? All this unemployment losses are temporary, but still it's a cause of worry. We know that it's temporary, but still it's a cause of worry, because how long it will take, right, to come out of this and see that all those who are willing to work will be getting the employment. According to the CMI data, in the age group, 33 million, right? 33 million in their 30s lost their job in April. Around 3.3 crore people in their age group of 30s, they lost their jobs in April. 14 million jobs, right? 14 million jobs lost in the April in the age bracket of 25 to 29 years. And 22 to 24 age group accounted for 11% of the lost jobs. So the rate of unemployment was 24% as ended on the May 10th. So the rate stood in this week ended March 22. The unemployment rate was 8.4% in the March 22nd, and it has increased to 24% by May 10th. So the labor participation rate also fell down to 37.6%. Very alarming figure, but this is a temporary phenomena. But even in this, coming out of this temporary phenomena is not that easy. As I told you about the case study of an MSME, wherein an entrepreneur whom I spoke to definitely said to me, it takes minimum of 3 to 6 months. Because in order to reach the pre-COVID situation, right, in order to reach the pre-COVID-19 situation, it takes minimum 3 to 6 months. It may take more, if at all, if it doesn't suffice, if the COVID-19 is not immediately, if the COVID-19 will not come out of the COVID-19 at the earliest. So all these are the issues, right? All these are the issues that which we should look into. And moreover, right, the government of India has already started, right? Government of India has already started series of measures. Prime Minister Modi has said 10% of our GDP, right? Even the economists were calculating if at all the government can come out with the 8% GDP package, 8% of the GDP's package would be fairly good. But the government of India has released 10 crores, right? 10% of the GDP, 10% of the GDP, 20 lakh crores as the revival package to come out of this COVID-19. Only hope is let it reach the intended beneficiary. Along, when they're planning this, let them plan it for each, right, each sector a separate revival package, right? They're doing it, let them do it for all, right? This have been advocating from the first week onwards, right? Let there be each separate revival package to each sector and section of the society. Even, my students were, when I was speaking to my students, we are taking the online classes for them right now. And one of my students did ask me this, sir, right now we are also suffering, right? Every month we extra had to pay around 250 rupees on, right, on charging down for the data charging. Otherwise, for the currency, otherwise it becomes very difficult for us to attend the online classes. So it is burdening everybody, right? It's burdening the students, it is burdening the teachers, it is burdening the migrant workers more than everybody. It is burdening the agriculture sector more than any other sectors like that. It is burdening everybody. So what I request the government is, let it have the revival package to each sector, right? Each sector, and let it also come out with the implementation plan. And the persons who commits mistake, who do the corruption, and even in this revival packages, they should be punished. It should be made as a criminal offense. And another important thing is revive the economic activities in the industrial cluster. Once cleans it, right? Compulsory test all the workers, start the industrial activities in the industrial clusters, lock the industrial clusters, see that nobody, they will not be again, and they will not be infected again with the COVID-19. See that take all precautions, but start the economic activities in the industrial clusters. It's a high time India should start the industrial activities. It should start the right all the business, at least in those zones where it is now not infected, right? Where it is free from the infection. Either you call it as a green zone, or in those areas, right? Cleans it, right? Compulsory test that particular locality, cleans that industrial area, and see that, right? Take all precautions, right? Take all precautions, and then start, right? And then start the industrial activities, all business activities, step by step. We should come out of this lockdown, right? Because till we find the vaccination, right? Till we find the vaccination for COVID-19, the threat of the COVID-19 will be always there, right? The COVID-19 will be always there. So we should also learn, right? With this threat, also we have to survive. We have to take care of ourselves. We have to take care of the livelihoods also of the individuals, for which the economic, right? Which the economic activities has to be started. And the initial days, the capital intensive industries which require, which will be more which will be running more with the capital and less of the labor, can be rejuvenated. The demand for the ancillary industries also will come. By that time, the MSMEs can also, start with the plans, and the laborers who have already traveled back, they may also come back. But the most important thing is, going by the, going by the reports, I strongly feel at least 25%, minimum of 25% of these workers who have migrated back may not come back also. So how exactly, right? How exactly? Because there have been psychological hit. Of course, the government has said clearly told to them, we will take care of you, and it has given the revival packages for them today. But despite that, if 25% of them would not come, then what's the alternative for it, right? What's the alternative for it? How exactly, right, to cope up with that kind of a situation? All these strategies we have to plan. If the A plan strategy A will not work, what will be the plan B? What will be the plan C, right? Because we have to respect the migrant worker who has traveled back, right, the decision also. right? If they are willing to come back, contribute, fine, right? If at all, if some of them really don't want because they may have faced a lot of hardships, and if they're psychological, if they've already decided you'll stay back whatsoever, so then the decisions also should be taken, right? Then in case if you want to channelize, right, how exactly to cater to the labor needs, that also has to be planned well. And then, labor intensive MSMEs and the agriculture should be given the interest free loans. Of course, the government has announced collateral free loans also in that direction. So more importantly, right, this COVID-19, maybe this is just the beginning of the few more viruses to come. Hopefully, by God's blessings, let it not come. But even then, right, we should be ready, right? We should be ready with our health infrastructure. We should improve the health infrastructure immediately and be ready to face any disasters, so that India need not have to face any such situation that which it has faced today. So with these, right, I really thank the organizers, Sangolli Rayana, Prathama Darje Gataka Mahavidyalaya, for giving me this opportunity to share my views on the impact of COVID-19 on the Indian economy. I thank the principal, Dr. Jayana, the coordinator, Dr. Ramesh, and of course, I should not forget to thank the Honorable Vice Chancellor of the Rani Chennamma University, Professor Ramchandra Gowda, who is instrumental in organizing this workshop. That's what even the principal and the coordinator did mention to me. So thank you, thanks a lot. If you have any questions, any queries, or any clarifications, do text to me. I will try to answer them. Thank you, thanks a lot.